So the presentation that I'm about to present is actually from Dr. Noel Gately, who is our knowledge transfer and case manager here in university. So I'll go through this. Is, as I said, this is from an Irish perspective and TUS perspective. So if you have any questions, please let me know. First of all, I suppose because TUS is only a new university, it's 4 years old. It was due to it got university status because a number of technological institutions that were formerly colleges were given university status through amalgamation, and with that, there was a number of fundings that were put in place to help them, I suppose, expand and put processes and procedures in place that made them the same as I said, I suppose, our more classical traditional universities that have been here. And one of them was a KT Boost program. And I don't know if this is European wide. It's a 4-year program of Irish universities and technological universities, and with the objective support and increase the research commercialisation outcomes. So I suppose the traditional universities are a fay with startups and with what's involved in it, and they certainly have larger outputs than we were having ourselves. So this is to help with that, and it's to develop consistent practices across the knowledge transfer sector, and support the provide resources to knowledge transfer and commercialization. KTCO will support knowledge and technology transfer activities, including IP management, prospective license, and spin-out creation. KT Boost is expected to accelerate the rate of high potential startups, companies evolving from spin-out. So from our last speaker there, this office within our university is now to assist from idea conception right through. We're even looking at the detail in any thesis that are being done by any of our students, and our case officer Noel will look through them and go, okay, is there a potential of a startup, or is there a potential, as you said, from maybe an industry collaboration in regards to helping with their processes, or a new product within their business, and looking at that IP from that. As we said, fostering enterprise partnerships is to harness the TUS research creativity. And I've said this in our last calls, we're very infants in terms of, I suppose, having a central point in regards to entrepreneurship within the university. Entrepreneurship is definitely happening. We have a lot of industrial partnerships happening in some of our specializations and more than others. So it's to make sure that, I suppose, that all of the universities knows where to go and what pathways are available when they have an idea. And then when they have the idea, like, not to be nervous, how we can manage their IP, and then how to transfer that knowledge and support the enterprise. Because, and I'm sure you find that yourselves, like, enterprises are certainly very nervous sometimes when the word IP is involved and they see an MOU or a contract with all these pages. So it's to make sure all parties have a middle voice in that office, and that it strengthens the TUS innovation and then also the entrepreneurship innovation. So Jeffrey Nicholson's once said, research transforms funding into knowledge and ideas, where innovation transfers knowledge into money. So, I suppose we have seen through the university in years lots of ideas that could be amazing innovations, but have they went anywhere, and did not go anywhere because we didn't have, I suppose, the infrastructure set up properly to nurture the idea, and then when it was nurtured, to allow the creators of the idea to know the pathways of how they can turn their knowledge into money. And I suppose on that there has, I know one of the speakers have already said about their ideas. Has anybody else any other, I suppose, experience in turning their ideas into an innovation, or have they partnered with companies? And if you don't want to even speak, even put up a little thumbs up, like, if this is something that you have done before.
I think this is such an interesting question, because I think like as you pointed out, we do generate lots of ideas.
I know.
um, but how many of them come into practice into something that transforms? That's really interesting.
Yeah,
Lisandro has tried, and Demo has tried. Any
yeah.
others?
And there's somebody in chat there, is there?
Dimi
Uh,
is there. Do you want to
no,
share your
no,
experience?
haven't
Ah,
tried.
you haven't.
But after these courses, you will be able to try. But I, and I think very much in what we see as well. Sometimes when you read proposals, people don't even, researchers and students maybe don't even know that their ideas are something that could possibly turn into an innovation. They possibly don't know that there is an industry out there that's looking for their idea. So that's why it's so important to have this ecosystem set up within the university where we're working with future industries, and we're working with our regional industries in knowing what they want and need. And that when we see our researchers, our students looking at those areas, or we're funneling into looking in these areas, that we can make those connections, so we can um and that we are confident then when we're making those connections that we can um process those into IP and ideas and spin outs, because I do think that's where a little bit, I suppose, nerves between everybody goes. I just see there's another chat in there. Do we have organization like this in Finland? PRH.
Do you want to, Katrina, explain a little bit
Uh,
um,
well, we
what
have this
PRH does in Finland?
yes, we have this organization where you can have all this information and you can make for example, patent or buy a trademark. You can try this page. I think so. It's in Swedish and in English also.
So we'll move on. Oh, my.
And they also give a lot of help if you need something more information or you have some technical issues.
So I know we have researchers on the call, and you possibly all know, but we talk a lot about innovation and invention. And I suppose, what is innovation? What is invention? Like, because I definitely have learned from being a part of this project that, it means different things to different people. So what we're saying is invention is the creation of a product or introduction of a process for the first time, where innovation improves or makes significant contribution to something that has already been invented. So that's something that very much we're honing into within our own university, is that, when students and our researchers are working with companies, that, when they're being brought in to look at improvements, that when they make that consultancy and that improvement, that they protect, that they liaise with our innovation office straight away, our IPP office straight away, so that they protect the ideas that they're giving. Because I sometimes don't think that researchers realize that when they give that verbal, I suppose, consultation sometimes to industry and like they're giving their ideas. So you're giving your knowledge, you're transferring it over. So it's very important when you are making those calls and talking to them, that you have engaged with your offices first, and that there's contracts set up as well to protect that. Um, then I suppose this slide is just showing the innovation challenge, where you very much have your creative ideas that we've talked about. You're collaborating with people. You review them. There's implementation. There's completion of that, and scientific evaluation. So, as I said in the last slide, like, I'm not too sure in regards to the researchers that they're on the call at the moment, if their research is applied and they're working with industry, and if they are they aware of, protecting their ideas, and protecting, even when writing papers, because everything's free, looking at that there, and very much working with their case officer. Because innovation equals creativity plus commercialization. So this slide is just showing, I suppose, the technology transfer process. And I'm sure a lot of you are very aware of this. And it all starts, I suppose, with discovery. You know, you've discovered something that people want. And I suppose that goes back into our boot camps when we were speaking to the students. When you are working, whether it in a startup or you're coming up with a new idea, you know, does the market want this product or process? Is it needed? So if so, then there's disclosure, evaluation, then the intellectual property protection, the marketing of it, then the licensing of it, the product development, and the public use and financial returns. Now, we all know, and I suppose sometimes that can be very difficult for some of the companies that we work with, that it can be, well, in Ireland, it can be a longer process, you know, and it's about keeping all parties engaged when that process is happening to where it's at, and keeping the lines of communication open and for them. Knowledge transfer and commercialization. So as we've spoke about there, we have technology transfer. So within in an Irish context, what our knowledge transfer and commercialization department would look after is technology transfer and consultancy, spin outs, technology licensing, dealing with IP ownership. So looking at, you know, what percentages of ownership. So, you know, we would do quite a lot of projects. Some would be where the company is possibly giving 100%. So, you know, the IP is very much in their roommates. They have bought that at the start. Then some of them may be a project where they're giving a collaboration in time, and their payment might be in time. So rather than actual putting a payment of money into the consultancy project, it may be time and material. So there would be a negotiation to the percentage of IP based on that. And there's actually a European website based on that there, where all that information can be found. And the innovation vouchers. So we have in Ireland, you can see there the logo, Enterprise Ireland. Enterprise Ireland is our funding agency for SMEs, small and medium businesses, for export reasons only. So they would be businesses that are looking to export out of the country, and they look at growing them and growing them to scale. And they have a fantastic initiative, which is the Innovation Voucher Initiative. And it starts off with, well, it was only 5K last year, and they've actually upped to 10,000 euros. So you can apply for a 10,000 euro voucher. And then these vouchers you liaise with universities. So say, for instance, you're a SME with an idea, you can contact your local university, and these universities have the specializations in their areas. So for example, in Athlone or in TUS Midlands, we have 4 gateways working out of it. And there's 2 in the Athlone campus and 2 in the Limerick campuses. And in the Athlone campus, what you have is you have Command, which is our software and ICT specialization gateway. And you also have Applied Polymer Technologies, which is the APT gateways. And for any of you that are coming to the in-person boot camp, you know, you will certainly see these gateways in motion. And what would happen is that you're a company or a business owner or a new startup, and you have an idea. You would apply for an Enterprise Ireland voucher. And with that voucher, you could apply that it could be for a consultancy in looking if the idea is fit for market. You may have actually gone past that there. So it may be for a prototype or some investigation, or it possibly could be for some ready to market methods as well. And you can apply for that voucher up to 3 times. We actually have a project that's just gone to market. It was with a company called Ostaform, and it's been one of our success projects, I suppose. And it started out with an innovation voucher of 10,000. And what it is, it's for a change of materials for a colostomy bag. So I don't know if you're aware or you're not aware of colostomy bags. seemingly what was happening was it was nearly a one fits all process to the skin. But what was happening is we all know we're all different shapes, sizes, we live in different countries, the heat is different. So they weren't really fit for purpose. People were getting a lot of problems with it. So this company come up with an idea of trying to look at a different polymer material for the bag to stick to skin on it. And they started out with one of these 5,000 vouchers. That has led on to now being going into a feasibility study and a commercialization, and it's actually going into market in the US. So it is. So it's been a huge success. And it was able to. We were able to use our testing labs throughout the university and our researchers in looking at finding a material that was fit for purpose, and then to do all the testing with it, and the prototypes and the market commercialization. So that's been a huge success. And just to pause for a minute then, just to see in where you're own based in your own universities and throughout Europe, do you have something similar to these Enterprise Ireland commercialization innovation vouchers? Is this something that you have with your own governments?
If I may, not government, but again, where I was, there was one of the offices for knowledge transfer. Let's say they had this the same type of calls in which they would give these. They didn't call them vouchers, but basically that they would give some seed money, let's say, for you
Okay,
to advance a little bit your idea, see whether it has value or not, and whether it's worth pursuing or not. So basically, you could apply with your idea or your initial, let's say, research results, thinking that, okay, maybe I want to investigate whether this has applicability or there is some interesting from the industry or whatever, and they would give also some money
okay,
so that you can do that.
okay, okay. And where are you based out of? Portugal, is it?
Yes, that was
Very good.
a nearby university in Portugal. Yes, before
Okay,
I moved
okay,
here.
okay. Very good, very good. Um,
I think that in the Finnish case we have, I was just checking now that what are these
yeah,
Enterprise Ireland and Knowledge Transfer Ireland, and I put the links also in the chat. It's interesting to see. I think this patent office that Katrina shared before is similar to that knowledge transfer somehow, but then we have also this organization called Business Finland, which is maybe closer to this Enterprise Ireland, which is helping with in particular with internationalization of the products, and if you want to get your idea to the market. It's very competed, very competed funding though.
yeah, yeah.
Not so easy at all to get.
Okay,
But we have even in HAMC some projects that have got funding from there. So some researchers are really clearly then working towards commercialization, because I think this is the interesting thing as well, that a little bit about what Teemu and Sandro also mentioned, that like there's kind of border between what is maybe developed within the research side, because it's often also funded by public funding, and there are certain kind of frameworks that come with that, and then how to from that then come to that commercialization of the products. It's a really big question of funding as well, that what kind of funding allows you to do it and what kind of funding even encourages you to do that. Whereas in comparison to funding that actually is encouraging to create something that is publicly available without being commercialized. So I think funding has a big role to play here as well.
I think it's the key for everything, isn't it? Especially when you're a start. And I suppose we've heard that story, Mila, like when we've been sitting in these calls, when you're a startup and you have no funding and you just have your idea and everything seems so impossible at times. It's great that when you have a system around you that can try and support you as a startup in your idea. And it's great if the system, I suppose, has its checks and balances in it as well. So, they very much see the idea and say, okay, we can help with this here, or I don't know if this idea is really going to work, or I don't know if the person behind it has really did all their own checks and balances, you know, for the idea to work. And I suppose that's an area in IP as well that sometimes brings up a sticky situation, is like, who owns it then? You know, when it goes into a company and everybody gets nervous about having that conversation, you know, with the company, because you know, we're not lawyers, we don't like contracts. And when you see those pages in front of you, it can become very, you know, nerve-wracking, because, you know, you're either you're a researcher or you're an innovator and you've come up with ideas, and that's just not your thing. And that's why it's so important from the start of any idea. And we're trying to, I suppose, very much drum that into all of our researchers, into, you know, our IP office is open. The door is open for everybody at the start of any idea. Come in, chat about it, and they're the experts in this area. So they can handhold you through that process, you know, and make sure that you are being minded, and that you have time to work in your own expertise areas, and they will help you with this then. And that's why it's very appropriate for TUS and the originators, you know, because the IP then will benefit both of them when it comes to commercial exploitation of it. And then you very much then share in the financial rewards, hopefully, of a successful project. Then, you know, once, as I spoke about the Osterform example, like, you know, that really successful project has led to a local regional industry who's now going to be the manufacturer of it. So it's increased jobs in their industry. It's increased those that are working in the project to have academic publications. It's increased our funding in TUS, and it's also increased our footprint to go and speak about it. And the researchers that were very much involved in it, even to look at that, to look at the, you know, the materials that were used there, and to see how else they can harness that and move with the projects ongoing. So according to the World Intellectual Property Organization, the primary goals of a university to implement an IP policy should include, so this is for all universities, provide legal certainty, promote scientific research and technological development, encourage researchers to consider the possible opportunities for exploiting an invention so as to increase the potential flow of benefits to society, provide an environment that supports and encourages innovation and development. And that's very much where we're at it too, trying to provide that environment, balance the various conflicting interests of university, industry and society, which we have spoken about, ensure compliances with applicable national laws and regulations. So very much so what we would say here in TUS, that it's important to, you know, submit your invention disclosure form, as this protects your intellectual property, and it has multiple benefits for the university researchers. And this is recognition and career advancement, so it enhances academic recognition and your promotion prospects, funding opportunities. You know, it attracts additional research and funding into industry partnerships, revenue and financial awards, which comes up with having your own royalties. The technology transfer facilitates the commercialization of research translation of your research to real world applications. You know, it leverages IP for further research and development. As I spoke about that example in Osterform, you know, the IP from that there that we own now ourselves, we can look at that there to see if it can be used for other, I suppose, applications of polymers to skin, and whether that could be even diabetes or any other monitoring equipment. IP protection safeguards against unauthorized use and strengthens the research integrity. And that's what I'm saying is, like, you know, be mindful when you are speaking to people about your ideas, that you have safeguarded them, you know, that they are protected. And that's why it's important to always go to your offices about that. And it's the university support, as I said, the hand holding, to ensure that you're supported as a researcher, because this could be very new to you, or you could be very experienced in this area. But either way, it gives you an access to the legal, commercial, and marketing assistance of the offices, and a strategic advantages. You know, it prevents the competitors from patenting similar innovations, or prevents, you know, other universities or other people that you're speaking to, you know, to have access to that idea at times. So I suppose, you know, the benefits of oh, sorry, excuse me, the benefits of your protecting your IP, it's for society, you know, and a lot of what we see now, you know, we all want to make an impact. As we talked about earlier, we have lots of ideas, or we come up with lots of innovations and inventions that, you know, maybe sit in papers that don't get to society. So, you know, it's for that societal benefit. It's for that impact that we want to give. It could be environmental sustainability, and of course then the economic benefit of it. You know, personal gains for the researchers. So the researchers in this call, it's like, what are you going to get from liaising with your IP office, or making sure that you have the IP for your projects? You're developing new skills, as we said, career advancements. You're more employable. You get to manage and control the impact of your research. It belongs to you, you know, which is very important. The fastest route to self-realization, as I said, it's an impact in society, and gives you entrepreneurial opportunities, which you can work in side by side in regards to your academic career. So how to protect yourself and your technology. So how to go about it after even filling in your initial forms. So document your work. You know, make sure you're documenting all your work on a digital platform. Don't disclose your details of your innovation to any public forum without consulting KTO or the research office. You know, publications, conference, etc. You know, and I don't know if you have any examples of it here in the call. Like, we have our own example of it on a call where I think there was a piece of research being worked on for an innovation, and the researcher had a student helping out with it. And then the student was going to a conference and, you know, put up a poster based on the research. So when they went to log it for IP, it could no longer be logged because it had already been shown that it had worked. It had been showcased at a conference. Would anybody else have any examples like that there? Or, you know, have they had any, I suppose, I know Sandro was saying earlier about his negative, I suppose, not being able to get the IP up and going, but anybody else on the call? So I suppose another thing we would very much say to our researchers in the university is, you know, you don't have to be speaking about your IP to other industries. You know, always make sure your research office representative is in the call with you. We have that capacity in TUS, which we're very lucky at. So we would hope that everybody, you know, would use that. Don't sign any document before fully understanding what it means and the effect it will have. Be informed and ask questions. Commercialization process. So this is, I suppose, your process in commercialization. So you're identifying, you know, the need, I suppose. You're protecting it. You're translating then the knowledge. And then you can either license it, commercialize it, or spin out. Here in Athlone, we have 2 incubation spaces, TUS in Ireland, we have 2 incubation spaces. One is in Athlone, it's our Merck building, and one's our Hartnett Centre in Turles and Tipperary. Here is an example of TUS innovation disclosure form for you. So you would have the key dates in it, the inventor details, the percentage of contribution, description of innovation, the novelty, commercial potential, existing or planned disclosures, funding received, and the ownership. And excuse me. And would you be aware of anything similar in your own universities at this? Would this be something that you would be asked to use in your own universities?
Yes.
So again, you know, when it comes to our TTO office, what will happen is then there'll be an initial assessment, the marketability assessment. So again, you know, do we think there is a need for this in the market? You know, if say for instance the researcher or the student has not found a company that's looking for it, or you know, are doing their own startup, you know, is that market need there? The patentability assessment, you know, has it be patented? Can it be? The technical feasibility, will this project work? You know, the technical aspect of it, you know, is it fit for purpose? What needs to be done there? What TRL level is it at? You know, most in our universities, because they're applied for Ireland, we work on 6, 7, 8, maybe 9, like a lot. So we would go for the high TRL levels. What's the researcher team engagement, IP position and protection strategy? The technology is evaluated with the input with the inventor as well. So this would be going on side by side with each other. Importance of IP protection. So why is this so important? It's a brand reputation. You know, it's safeguarding against unauthorized use of protecting your company's image. Competitive environment advantage. Securing exclusive rights to your inventions, designs, and creations to maintain market leadership. Market differentiation, distinguishing your products and services. And then the financial security. So generating a revenue through licensing, franchising, commercialization of protected assets. I suppose we're going into what is intellectual property, and I think we very much recognize what it is. It refers to the creation of the mind, such as inventions, literacy, and artistic works, designs and symbols, names, images, and in commerce. IP rights protect these creations, allowing creators to earn recognition or financial benefits. You know, I suppose we're talking about it a lot in this session, but it is crucial for economic innovation. You know, it attracts investments and it protects companies and yourselves. So it is something that we would very much consider induce as a necessary for any first step when you're going with your inventions. So I know at the start of the call we were looking at the Finnish model, and you know, you have your patents, trademarks, copyrights, and designs. So these are all types of intellectual properties. You know, a patent very much protects the invention, granting the patent owner exclusive rights to it, to sell, manufacture it. The trademark protects the brand names and logos, uses to identify and distinguish goods and services. And then the copyright then protects the original works, ownerships, including literacy, dramatic music, and certain other works. And the designs protect the visual appearance of product, including its shape and configuration, pattern, and also. And I know we're all very aware of some of the big, I suppose, law cases in regards to copyrights and trademarks being taken, and you know, how that can be a financial disaster at times. So again, it's so important just to go back to your intellectual offices on it. So you have different forms of IP, as we've spoke about. And here is just a little, I suppose, a chart in showing you what it's used for, as we've went through there, how it can be applied, and the length of time, you know, that you have it for. So you can see that, you know, they're all different, and it's to cover all different aspects of your innovation. So, for example, like you have the Nokia phone, has many IP rights. Its trademarks as a Nokia. The product is the 208. It has startup tone then for its under trademarks. Its copyright is the software, its usual manuals, its ringtone, startup tone and images, and patents and utility modes. So, you know, the data processing, the operating system, operation for user interface, designs. It's the form of the overall phone, the arrangements, the shape of the buttons, the positions, and shape and screen. So I suppose very much when you have a product that you are looking at innovating or looking at then designing and going for IP or going for, you know, the different forms of it, it's very much to look at all the different aspects of the design and creation that's involved in it and where that ownership can lie. And at the minute, is any of the researchers on the call have products that they're working on, or, you know, at what stage are you in journeys at the minute? And is there any of the researchers on the call, can I ask, are any of you coming to the in-person week possibly in Toulouse?
No, I'm not. I didn't want to be the one talking again, but no,
No, it's
basically,
good to talk, Sandro. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
no, in terms of having something at the moment, obviously a bunch of research projects, but I don't think that we have identified any in which we would have already an idea of something to protect, at least without the ones that we already have protected and that we are already working on in terms of further developments and finding partners and stuff like that. So like something in between, I don't think so.
And what area are you in yourself, Sandro? I don't know if I missed that when you were speaking there.
Biomedical engineer.
Biomedical
So
engineer.
health software and medical devices for health.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. Yeah, we have a lot of that happening in Ireland. A lot of medical
But
companies.
it's also a field where it's relatively easier, I think at least, to find sometimes more investment, like or funding opportunities, even for these intermediate stages, for example. I didn't discuss previously when we were discussing these vouchers, but outside universities, for example, here in the Iberian Peninsula, so Portugal and Spain, we have some funding agencies that have these innovation programs in which they give, again, these seed monies for researchers to try to come up with business plans or to try to increase the TRLs of their of the whatever they are developing or trying to find the market fit, for example. But most of them are targeted towards these health applications or things like that. So in that sense, I'm privileged. I think at least because I hear a lot of other colleagues saying that in their areas of expertise is not that not so much common, let's say.
Yeah, I
There
think
are
the
a lot more
horizon
investment
calls
in
that are going
health.
to, yeah, I think the horizon calls that are coming up will be there'll be a lot towards health as well. From what they're saying as well, it seems to be, you know, an area it's gone into. We actually had a lady giving a chat in the university last week. We had bioeconomy week here in Ireland last week within our
Okay.
universities all over Ireland. So we had a lady from Horizon over just chatting in regards to what's coming up, and I think there's quite a few strands that will be
Okay.
looking at health.
It's good to be working in this field. In that aspect, at least, it doesn't have the hurdles that others have, I think.
No, no, and you know, I suppose her talk as well was a little bit sobering, because what she was saying as well is that at the start of it, when she started in her role, she never thought, like, as a clinical person, she would ever see a pandemic. And she says now we're talking about when the next pandemic is going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, oh God. So they're very sobering thoughts.
Exactly. One is already enough. No need for the
Yeah,
others.
exactly. So maybe lots of people can start working on different ideas in this area.
Yeah, I think in terms of why it's needed, everyone can
Yeah,
quickly relate to.
the whole microbiological area seems to be huge at the minute. I
Yeah.
know it's something that we're working in the university.
Yeah, and about that previous slide, so actually in also video. So we are developing in our team. We are smart clothing, and I think
Okay.
this is very interesting. So that
Okay.
now
Oh,
we are like also focusing on the IPR things, so that actually we can protect quite many things. So not
yes.
only like sensoring or electronics part, but actually like we can also think about this.
The design, the
Yeah.
texture, materials, exactly. And that you're not just looking at the product overall as one piece, but of all the invention and innovation that has gone into that product, like because other companies or other people can use that there to grow their own businesses, to make sure that you're protected, that if your invention and innovation has gone into that their area, that it's covered.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that's an important aspect in terms of like thinking outside the box. Also, when you look as researchers, usually we are developing a piece of technology and we focus obviously on the technology, on the immediate innovations or innovative aspects of the technology itself. And sometimes while we are developing something, when you're trying to make up a solution, for example, in your case, the clothes, we have to come up with some interesting design options as well in order to embed the technology into the piece of thing that we are working on. And sometimes you might find that it's harder to protect the technology itself that you had, because sometimes someone may have something that is very close. And so the innovative aspect or the claims or the clauses that you put in a patent will not suffix in the end, but then the design could be the answer. And it will still protect your project as an overall idea, let's say. So we had an example of that here in the past as well, in which when discussing with the IP office and they were trying to advise us on the different ways of protecting, we at some point noticed that it could be hard to go for a patent in terms of the technology, the underlying technology, because we were giving it an interesting new use, but the technology itself was already something that was new, which was just that no one has ever thought of thinking outside the box and playing it completely different from what it was being used. So in terms of the patenting of the technology, it was not easy. But then the way we were embedding it into a software to use it in a clinical application, it was a way how you make it intuitive, how you make it work for the application and so on. From a design perspective, it could be protected. And because it was really application dependent, let's say, but in this case, the technology itself, the only way of making it work probably for a clinician would be around those types of designs or intuitive interfaces. If you protect that, it could protect the whole thing, let's say, more or less, or at least a big part of it. And so sometimes that's in that sense, for example, having this assistance from an IP office and thinking not only on a part of what is IP, but really trying to come up, giving an overall picture, it could be nice. Because I say this like from a researcher perspective, we tend to focus too much on what we are developing, on what you consider like a novelty when we are writing a paper, when we are going to the conference of our own expertise or in our field. But sometimes what you see as something that can be protected for a commercialization end goal could be something that you usually didn't even give much thought of.
Absolutely. And isn't it go back to the sticky note example from 3M? I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where they were trying to come up with like um, an adhesive like cream for glue or something like that there. But then they ended up coming up with something else. Absolutely. So sometimes our innovations, when we look at it, we're looking at it, for what we want. But sometimes when you give it into your innovation office, they can turn around and go, oh, wow, well, actually, we have a company that is looking at that like in another way. So let's chat and see if we can expand that out.
Yeah, good points. Thanks. Yeah, interesting.
So patents, very much the definition is that a patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention which allows the patent holder to exclude others from making or using or selling the invention. It usually lasts about 20 years in regards from the filing. A patent application process involves filing for an application from the patent office, examination of the application, and the grant or rejection of the patent. I'm not going to dwell too long in all of those definitions. I suppose the requirement for a patent is very much that it's a novel idea, it's non-obvious, it's useful, it's embedded, and it's not exclusive. You know, these are, and this presentation will be available for all. All patents are not necessarily commercializable. So I suppose that's the important bit of this here slide, is that sometimes, you know, if you have a patented idea, it may not be something that you'll get commercial money in the end of it. And that would be because sometimes the idea is something that is just going to be used for society. Because is it strategic? Is it defendable? And what markets really matter? Filing patents is not cheap. You know, issuing and defending patents is expensive. So they're the costs of patents. So it's one of the more expensive ways to go. With a patent process, then, do you have an idea? You do a patent search, then you build the prototype. Keep your idea secret until the file and the patent, or you could lose your patent rights. You know, then you file the provisional patent, you test the market, you sell the product. Must file on non-provisional patent with 12 months. So again, this very much comes back to you have to work with your IP office in the universities, because you know, I completely understand that researchers are so busy in time. Some of you are teaching academically, you are researching, you are producing papers, you are producing grants. So please ensure that, you know, you talk to your IP office, because as I said, these are the experts in these areas. And this is the patent filing in Europe. So it's very much that the application preparation, then there's a formal examination, and then there's a second follow-up examination, and then there's the granting of the patent. So that's across the EU there. Trademarks, again, I'm not going to go into detail in regards to this slide, but as much as it's the definition and role of trademark as a symbol, design, or phrase legally registered and represent a company and project, distinguishing it from the others. And we're all very aware, you can see an example of the trademarks there. Trademark owners can enforce their rights by taking legal action against infringers who very much similar marks without their permission. So that I suppose goes on to fraudulent use. The WIPO manages the Madrid system for international trademark registration, allowing protection in multiple countries with one application. And then the European Union Intellectual Property Office provides the EU-wide trademark, so it does. Trademark registration in the EU. So again, this is very much the application of it. You file the application, you exam the iteration process, and then there is your trademark is published under the EU IPO's trademark bulletin, and then there's registration for grant protection, and then it is across the European Union. And then copyrights. So we all very much know that, I suppose, copyright protects the original work of the authorship, including the literacy, dramatical, musical, and certain other intellectual works. It protects a wide range of works, including books, music, films, paintings, and computer software. It can last up to 70 years, so it can. The importance of designs. So definitions and importance. Designs protect the appearance and products. They add value to uniqueness. Designs are crucial for differentiating products and creating visual appeal to attract the consumer. Registered versus unregistered. Registration provides a stronger protection. Unregistered designs have limited protection. We actually, one of our gateways is called Caber in Ireland, and it very much works with the beauty and health industry. So they would be working a lot with ensuring that, you know, if a new client of theirs, a small business owner or a new company have come up with I suppose a vitamin or a health product or a new beauty product, and they're very much saying, you know, on the design that this product leads to such and such, that they're in line with with all the regulations and that. So again, they'd be lazy in with our IP office to ensure that's correct. Trade secrets. So trade secrets are confidential information that provide a business with competitive edge. Examples include formula, practices, design. You know, it's very much there to protect through confidentiality agreements, limited access, security measures, and prevent unauthorized disclosure. You know, very much in TUS, when we're working with all of our companies, you know, we don't start any work unless we have NDAs and non-disclosures in operation first. Protection measures then for trade secrets. The international guidelines from the WTO said the agreements on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights provides international standards for trade secret protection. So there's a national legislation that's all popped down there in regards to all the different countries there for you to have a look at. The cornerstone of EU IPO and EPO. So EU IPO is the European Union of Intellectual Property Office. It plays a crucial role in administering the community trademarks and community design systems. It's a central hub for registering trademarks and designs. The EPO then is, while not an EU institution, is vital for patent protection in Europe. It grants the European patents that can be validated and designated in countries. Then there's harmonization between the both, and that ensures just there's a consistent and predictable legal environment for businesses. And the pillars of European IP law. So there is all the different laws and regulations that we have to follow. And again, I'm not going to go into the detail there for you. It's something that you can read, because this is really where your IP office will help you out with. I suppose, where does this all come from? I suppose it comes from the EU directives and regulations, the Trademark Directive of 1989. There's the Patent Directive of 1998. And, you know, Trade Secrets Directive is 2016. And the Copyright Directive is the most recent one in 2019. And it was updated there to, you know, address the digital environment, including online platforms and digital rights management. And I suppose what will be very interesting in coming up with that there will be the use of, I suppose, AI and how our universities are, you know, using AI and where we're putting our information up onto, because in the end, you know, if we are working on any information and you're even putting it up there for a check, it is going up for open information for other people to look at your ideas. And just on that there, in regards to your universities and the use of open source, how are you looking at that as researchers, or has that come up with yourselves, or is that something that your universities are looking into?
I don't know if I understood the question.
Okay. Like, say, for instance, our TUS here released a policy, you know, in the last few weeks with our use in regards to open AI technology such as ChatGPT, and putting information up there for chats, checks and balances to ensure that we're just not doing it anymore.
No regulation as far as I know, like
Okay.
prohibition. There are a bunch of talks of whether you should or not, and both from a research perspective,
Yeah.
education perspective, professors and students, and everything. But what we have in terms of Portugal wide is the in Portugal we have one major like funding agency, like the national funding agency, which I
Okay.
guess most countries have, and they have come up with a service in which you can it's like a platform that they have of these large language models like ChatGPT, not the most recent, but the previous one I think is there, for example, the GPT-4, and you can use through their platform because and it's meant for researchers. But the whole idea is that although you are using the model from OpenAI, they have like stipulation with the company that they won't use the data. It's like locally run here in
Okay.
Portugal. The data never leaves and stuff like that. So basically, it's they provided that platforms to make it more to democratize the access to the platform, but also to
Okay.
make it more secure for those who want to use it. Although obviously you don't get the latest models,
Yeah.
but it's something in between, let's say at least.
Very interesting. And anybody else have any of how their countries or universities are looking at that in regards to, I suppose, trade secrets being put up online or or copyrights. It'll be an interesting, I think, few years with people coming back with maybe early use of the open system and not realizing what information was going up at times. So we will see. We will see. Enforcing your rights. So again, I'm not going to go through these few slides in regards to the law of it. Again, this is going back very much to Enterprise Ireland and how we work here in Ireland. We have a fund called the Commercialisation Fund. So we do here in Ireland. And, it does work from TRL1 up until 9. And it's where they look at very much projects and see if there is a commercialisation aspect in it. And it very much asks that you engage in a university and an enterprise in it. At TRL1 is basic research, TRL3 is lab demonstration, TRL7 proven prototypes, and then up to final products. Those commercialization funds can be from €10,000 upwards, so they can. Excuse me. So it's 100% state funding to support the commercialization of next generation innovative technologies from third level and research performing organizations. Significant funding available up for a 2-year development plan and non-financial support throughout. It's an instrumental partnership between the KTO offices, commercialisation offices, and Enterprise Ireland. IP must remain unencumbered with the supported RPO in order to qualify 100% funding. Financial support for key hired equipment, materials, consultancy, and travel. Access to commercial support, business event, mentorship, market research supports, and commercialization training and funding supports. Like, for example, I was in a call this morning with one of our research centre, and I think they have 6 or 7 of these working at the minute. Now, when they start to work with a company on it, maybe 3 of them will possibly start to work within the next year. The workflow then is, as I said, it's a proof of concept here, and then it's a full commercialization fund. So the proof of concept is adapted application. It's a 3-week lead time. More research is engaged. And then the full commercialization is a 6-week lead time. Constant engagements. It's always open. And there's one workflow. And then you can get up to 100 K with the 12 months one. So licensing versus spin out. So that's a license is very relatively low investment is required. There's a lower risk but lower returns. Income more certain and quicker to arrive. Can be quick to first customer. Can be quicker, easier to scale. Whereas a spin out then is slower, more complex, higher risk, but returns high if successful. Significant capital gains. So I suppose it's very much again speaking speaking to the team back in your universities and looking at your innovation and looking to see, would it be preferable maybe to license it, or is it like, is it something that you really see will have spin out potential? Dimensions of business model. So this is very much the business model canvas. So I'm going to not go through that there because I know we might have done them in another ones. High potential startups, key criteria for Enterprise Ireland high potential support. So, founder team with domain knowledge, identity startup, the experience, if not, a plan to introduce them to relevant skills, innovative tech-based solution, export markets, market focus, scaling to potential, a comprehensive business plan, investor term sheet, basic eligibility. So that, I suppose, that goes back to my example in regards to Osterform, the company that we worked at. Like as I said, we started off their project on, at the time, a 5K voucher that went to 3 times of a iteration of it. Then that went to the commercialisation fund, and now they're actually going to export globally with that. So you will know these fears more so than me here. What we see is that it's very risky. I'm communicating in a way that I'm not used to. So we've given the solutions to us beside it. Like, we have our commercialization support. I don't understand IP issues. I don't have the business skills. So what we would say very much is, come back to the IP offices and, we will handhold you through this. So this is what we have seen is the emergent trends very much in IP, digitalization. The rise of digitalization, as I said, we were chatting about a little bit earlier, presents new challenges and opportunities for IP law. Consider the implications of online platforms, e-commerce and digital content distribution for copyright, trademark and patent protection. Adapt your IP strategies to this digital environment. International cooperation and treaties are becoming increasingly important to IP protection in the globalized world. Monitor developments for international IP laws and participate in efforts to harmonize IP standards. Engage with international organizations. And, I suppose that's a huge part now in TUS, and I'm sure it's the same, throughout Europe, is state aid. When we are working with companies, are we applying state aid to them, that we're not giving an unfair advantage to one company over the other? And also, where is our information going to? What partners are we working with, and what is the potential of that information to be used in a way that we didn't necessarily think that invention was going to happen. New technologies such as AI, blockchain and biotechnology raise novel IP issues. Stay informed with the legal developments in these areas and consider how they affect your IP rights. Explore opportunities and protect innovations in these fields. So again, the future trends that we have chatted about there. And, that's Noel's information, who is our commercialization office in TUS, and you're more than welcome to reach out to him, and he will be happy to help. So that's all from myself, and I'm sorry for not being.
Thank you very much, Anna. That was actually very, very insightful.
Okay.
Thank you for jumping into this session.
Not
I
at
think
all.
we got lots of information, and at least for myself, maybe the one issue that is now on the top of my mind is actually the complexity of all this as well. That I think that picture of that phone remains in my mind. Not the least because it was Nokia and I'm from Finland, but still, how many things are related to one innovation in terms of IP is quite interesting. I think Katrina had also something that she wanted to kind of shed light from the Finnish perspective to this complexity to the end of this session as well. And of course, if
Yes.
anybody has questions or comments to Anna, then please do also share. But do you want to share, Katrina, your thoughts as well to the end of this session?
Just a moment. Here was this pyramid, what I'm saying you before. So I want to show you this. This is picture how, and this shows how extensive this issue is. This is in Finnish now, but if you want, I can translate it and put it to the material bank. For example, here, it's a, it's not so good. I'm sorry, it's not clear picture, but here is the first process about your idea. And then there is a process about commercial process. And here is about FTU and due diligence process, marketing and ethicality issues here. So there is several things which are related to each other, and several things are independent in this process to each other. And it also depends on how and where you are making the invention. Are you in the research group in the university, or are you alone, or are you entrepreneur? It depends a lot of because, for example, if you are going to get foundation, if you are alone, you don't have this any people to help you. You have to do everything by yourself. And also, if you are, for example, at the university alone, or if you are in a research group, there is a lot of about confidential matters. You have to know a lot of things about confidential agreement, for example. But this picture show you how large this issue is. Okay, that's all.
Yeah, I think it relates well to that the material that Anna was showing, that these are kind of very big processes with different elements, and like you said, they're interdependent also. So if you do something, it affects something else in your whole process. So quite interesting.
But do you think this is necessary? Do you want that I give you also something to this material bank?
Sure. Yeah, I think that everything is always good. Like we can add all of them to the material bank online in the innoboost.eu website.
Yes.
Thank you, Katrina, as well.
And thanks, Anna. It was so you came so quickly, and you got so good.
I'm apologizing. I misunderstood.
No
No
problem
nothing at all.
I think we all enjoyed
No,
the
I hope so.
presentation. I would ask still that we have a couple of minutes. We can wrap it up as well. But if anybody now has still some comments or some thoughts or some questions, we still have a few minutes. So please just come forward. Anything that this made you think? Did it make it clearer? Did it make you think even more about the complexity? Did you get kind of like, okay, this is quite familiar, or any thoughts, comments, questions?
Licensed software and sold to a company in the past as part of my PhD results and outputs. So yeah, a few experience, but I still believe that I have a lot to learn. I had some assistance in during all these processes. Where I was, the universities, it's not where I'm now. I'm currently at IPCA, Barcelos, Portugal. But I was in the different university back then as a student, and they had these offices that assisted us both with the not with the writing, but at least with
Yeah.
with submitting the patents, with being aware of any deadlines, answering to the European Patent Office for like claims disputes and stuff like that. So basically, I'm not a completely aware of every rule or path that we can take. That's why I also thought that this could be interesting. It's just like an experience gained by being in there and having to do this a couple of times, or a few more than a couple, but a few times already, and being close to the people that are assisting us and getting to understand a bit about the process.
Yeah. And before, sorry, Anna, I wanted to ask on Sandra that do you have any kind of lessons learned from that? What are the most important things to consider, or what are the like how do you get through the process? Or you had the assistance, of course, from that university department.
I think
what did you
one of
learn
the key
yourself?
there are a bunch of them. I think we could be talking about this a long time. But basically, like one key aspect, if you think about academia and research projects, is whether you want or not to go to patent. This is always the first thing that was like within our minds, or whether it's an interesting solution. And I can say this because like in the other end of the spectrum, for example, if you are trying to make it valorization or commercialization of something that you have as an output of your research, the other time that I licensed and sold the software, for example, we didn't patent it, and it was not something that we could patent. There is not this innovative feature enough in the sense of what the patent requires, because the patent has these three rules that right that you have to follow through in order to be eligible, let's say. But it was a sufficiently novel piece of software that companies wanted to like simply grab it and embed in their software rather than having to implement themselves that. So it was better to license that rather than to patent it itself. In terms of the patents itself, if you go down that road, one issue that I always had is the fact that we usually have this bounded to research projects. Like you have a research project, you may have an output, you go and you submit a patent, and then later on during this process, because it's a very long process, then it starts coming other bills for the different stages that now you get, but you are no longer in the project because probably it already ended. And then you have the issue of how do you fund this? Some universities have some fundings to help. Obviously, the costs go way high very quickly, but sometimes it's also to the researchers to find additional money to keep on investing. And so this is also an issue, like you start this process, and I have found this a couple of times as well. Initially, we started this process, and then later on we had funding issues, let's say, in terms of how to keep the patent. And so it almost feels like some lost time of investing all the amount of time in writing it and submitting and going to claim some decisions on it. And then it's later on in the process, you start having difficulties in keeping on investing to keep the patent alive while you are searching for a solution. Because having a patent just for the purpose of having a patent, it's not the end goal, right? So you need to do something with it. And that's where I think that as for the different experiences that I have in different universities, I never had a really good backup, let's say, in which I thought that I had someone helping me then do the next stage after a patent, like finding partners, finding people that could be interested in grabbing this piece of technology and taking forward and everything. All the offices in which I work with was either to patent or license or something, or to think on like more research sites and collaborations, maybe international collaboration or something, but never to find business partners or ways, unless it was for us to go forward as a startup or something like that, because then usually you also have offices for that. So, but this sense of, okay, I have a patent, now what I do with it, I always thought that it was something that it's missing, a missing link to really value what you created.
Very interesting. So, Anna, do you have in TUS
Yeah.
something? Yeah,
Can you hear me okay?
maybe you can. Yes, we can hear
Yeah,
you very
perfect.
well.
And
Yeah.
that's really interesting what you were just saying there, because I know some of the universities in Ireland, what they have done, we don't do it in TUS. It's more some of, I suppose, as we'd say, the classical universities is they actually have like their own companies that sit inside their innovation centers. So instead of having I suppose, yourself setting up as a startup, that company heads that startup, so it gives that security. But that's with some of our I suppose our more classical universities here in Ireland, and it is something in TUS that we would like to try and bring on board. That we have our own, I suppose, company status within it to help embed startups or researchers with it.
I know some of the participants have not yet been through these processes, and then some have. So, and Teemu was saying that to him is something relevant in the near
I
future. Yeah.
I always think myself, Mila, like, that if you speak to any entrepreneurs outside of the university circle, they will always say, some of their top 5 tips, and in it will be, reach out to the people that are experienced in the area. We don't hold all we don't hold experience in every area. We're not great at everything, but the things that we're great at, we work on really hard. But if there's things outside your remit, go to those people, and that's why you have your T2 offices, there. So I suppose it can be very nerve-wracking, and I think we don't always know if our ideas are something that will go to fruition. But isn't it better that we have it documented, just in case?
Yes.
Err on the side of caution. You don't know what you could be sitting on. You could be sitting on the next iPhone.
Exactly. Yeah, next disruptive
Yeah, exactly. This is
innovation.
it.
Who knows?
Who
Yeah, like
knows?
the post-it
Exactly.
note.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's amazing, isn't it? Isn't it all those little nuances on innovation are the ones that come to the forefront? It was the ideas that it's what people need. So you don't know sometimes what you could be sitting on in your research. So I always think, if you are an active researcher, and if it's just a fact of filling out that form, that disclosure form at the start, you have a certain amount of protection there from the beginning, at least. And that idea could be sitting there maybe for a year or two, and a company could come in looking for something similar. And when the central office knows that there's somebody working on that in the area, they can come out and reach to you. So, not all research then is lost. And, it saddens me sometimes that, like, some people's research are just sitting on files and not being used or anything like that there, especially when they've put so much hard work and effort in it. So we don't know when it could come up.
Yes, you are right. I think
Yes.
that's the good kind of final words that write it down and at least process it so that because you
Have your
never know.
ownership.
Yes, and I said that be proactive because you don't want to fight in the court.
No.
That's a more practical tip even.
Yeah.
For sure.
No court cases.
Yeah. Okay, I think that if there are no questions, anybody wants to still comment this, you are free to comment though. But
thank you, Mila and Katrina,
that's
as always,
good.
for the wonderful support.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to just say that I just from this also saw like how important it is that we have these structures as well in our universities to support, because I think, well, Sandro's case as well, I think you have been using that support system in your university, and
Yeah,
as Anna
sure.
said, we cannot know or understand everything ourselves, but it's so
Nope.
valuable to have a place where you can go with your so-called silly questions which I
Exactly,
think
even
was
if you don't have
missed.
any idea, so that
Yeah,
you know how to
yeah,
address these things and you can start thinking
exactly.
more as an entrepreneur rather than just a
Yeah,
researcher or just a professor.
yeah,
Because it's
exactly.
also
Yeah,
more and more important from the point of view of like getting funded. So even if you just do
yeah,
research as a, for the purpose of research nowadays to get funded in many of these fields, EU-wide, for example, it's much more focused on impact of what your research
yeah,
does. And in that sense, some of these ideas coming from IP protection and how a business is run and how you can then translate and value what you develop or what you find during your research. It can come in handy when you are writing a grant or something, so that you can write it already with a sense of, okay, this can be impactful in a given way. Because otherwise, sometimes we are a lot in our own bubbles, in too much thinking on research and not innovation, but on getting more knowledge, more and more knowledge, without really actually thinking on the innovation aspects of getting that out.
yeah.
That's true.
Very good. Very important points as well. Yeah, so let's get out of our research bubbles and remember our IPR issues. Maybe that's what I will say. And with that, I wish everyone very nice weekend. We will be coming back again with these sessions. And as I said, this session will be also put online. So if any of your colleagues need this information, please do to tell them to go to our website to check it out. But thank you very much for this afternoon.
Thank you.
Very nice weekend.
Nice weekend, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.